What's up, guys? It's Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down 5 tips every wide receiver should know, okay? So we're going to be talking about some of the main things that receivers need to be focused on when it comes to route running, releases off the line, hand technique, and all that good stuff. So 5 main things they need to know. But also, guys, we were having a 50% off sale on our 20 press releases program and our Improve Your Route Running in 10 Days program. So if you check out that very first link in the description, you'll get access to this video for 50% off only today. This one-day only sale for both of those programs. Hope to get you guys on that soon. Again, very first link in the description. Let's get started. So first tip I want to talk about is going to be our stem and our break point. So this is something that a lot of receivers don't understand, and we're going to be looking at this route here from Jerry Jeudy. So everybody's probably seen this route before, but the main thing, again, first tip that we got to focus on, being able to sell vertical on my routes and being able to drop my hips into my routes. Okay, so those are some of the main, that's probably the most important thing I would say that receivers need to know. So when we're getting into a route, the whole goal is to what? Make this DB believe what? Make him believe fade. Make him turn his hips and make him run with me. So if I could come out the line and sell vertical on my stem. So that's the stem, right? Selling fade. That's what I want to focus on here, number 1. So selling fade comes from a couple different things. It comes from your speed, comes from your arm drive, comes from your pad level, and it comes from like kind of your eyes as well, right? So Jeudy does a great job of actually running full speed into this break. He's coming out here driving. We're making this DB think fade 100% of the time. The goal is to get him to turn his hips and fully commit to this break with me. I want to make him believe fade. How I do that, again, like I said, speed, body language, and eyes. Now, what you don't want to do is right before the break point, this does not sell vertical. If you start chopping your feet and you raise your pad level up. You see, Jeudy gives this little peek back technique right here. Not necessarily going to focus on this entirely, but he doesn't lean back. He's got a good pad level going forward, staying in stride, because that's not an indicator to the DB. When you guys are in that stem portion of your route, it's all about not giving an indicator. I don't want to give an indicator to this DB. I want to be able to just run full speed, stay in stride, and then drop this thing off, right? So now that's exactly what Jeudy does. And you see when he snaps down, right? This is the break point. This is also part of the first thing that I feel every wide receiver should know is that his hips are violent, and that's what decelerates him. This snap down step, they call it a trigger step. That's what will bring you to deceleration. You don't want to beat the drum. You don't want to chop your feet, because when you chop your feet, that takes more time at the top of the break, right? It's all about eliminating time spent, who could get out of the break faster and who could stop on a dime. That's who gets separation from this DB. So you see when Jeudy's here, he snaps down. He gets in this explosive position and his hips are aggressive. That's what decelerates you, fellas. So again, first tip, stem and break point. You guys got to understand how to sell vertical and how to be able to drop on a dime and create energy. Selling vertical and creating energy times up or goes hand in hand. They tie together, right? Being able to run full speed and change direction will not happen if you're not violent with your hips. This guy won't shoot by as much. You won't get as much separation if I don't sell vertical. So what? I drop my hips. So what? I'm violent with my hips. But if you're going half speed, that DB is going to be able to react because he's also going half speed, right? So it's all about having good body language, good speed, keeping those eyes forward or peeking back, keeping a good pad level, then being able to drop right on a dime. That's the first thing I feel every wide receiver should know. Let's watch this thing again, full speed one more time. Now we'll get into the second tip after this break, okay? So now, great route there by Jeudy. Now, the second tip I want to talk about here, fellas, is I want to talk about acceleration. So this is what so many people don't understand about any kind of routes. Let's watch this route here by Calvin Ridley. So he goes with this diamond release. Again, not going to focus too much on releases right now. We're going to get into releases later. But this is the point that I want to talk about right here. The point of separation, the point where I get separation and I'm trying to break away from this DB, right? So many people anybody, I'm going to tell you this right now, anybody can get a DB to turn his hips if they're a salesman enough. They sell the route enough, right? But these DBs work those situations. They're some of the most talented guys on the field because they're constantly playing a guessing game, right? It's the second hardest position on the field at all times next to quarterback, right? So what do I have to do? I have to make him pay for committing his hips to a break. So what do you think you should do? Because when the ball is coming right here, it is a race to that spot. See, this DB opens up, right? But imagine if he were to baseball turn, or some people call it a speed turn, where he reverse pivots out of here and he tries to drive on this slant. It is a race to that spot. It is a race, and still we don't have as much separation as we could. Well, we do have a lot of separation in this case of the NFL, but it's not like an ocean of space, right? But to this point right here, it is a race, fellas. Same thing goes for a comeback. Same thing goes for a dig route. Same thing goes for a post route. You guys got to win the race to the ball. That's the second thing that a lot of receivers don't understand is the acceleration to the ball. So what? I got him to turn his hips. So what I got him to be off of his platform? Can I beat him to that spot? And how I'm able to do that is when you guys cut off of this leg, this third step right here. You guys go 1, 2, 3. You want to make sure that you're pushing. You're creating energy off of this cut step because that's where we drive. If I push off of that leg and you see how he's pushing here and he's opening up that hip and he's striding and he's pumping those arms, that's how you accelerate efficiently, right? So you're putting the brakes on with that cut. You're pushing off of that cut. You're opening up your hip and you're running your arms. You don't want to lose any speed. You want to run into the brake and then be able to run out of the brake to widen the gap with this DB. Let's watch the thing again, full speed. So again, the second tip that I feel all wide receivers need to know is being able to have that acceleration out of their brakes, okay? And again, when it's like a comeback, a curl route, when you drop your hips, that's why I said creating energy. That's why I said in the last clip, I want to create energy because I want to turn that energy into acceleration to where I could drive out. So you see how he comes off here, 1, 2, 3, gets him to turn those hips, drive those arms, and let's accelerate. Let's win that race back to the ball. All right, so now we're going to be looking at this double up release right here, okay? So this 1, 2, right? So now, this double up release here, the key about releases off the line, this is the third thing that I feel all receivers need to know is you got to step outside the DB's frame, okay? You cannot step inside of his frame. You cannot do choppy steps inside of his frame because that will not make him move. So let's watch this thing full speed. So you see how we go with this 1, 2 off the line, right? Kind of like this wide step almost. You consider this a wide step where he just goes, but I would consider it because of this back step, it's more of like a double up release. But let me ask you this. What should the DB be looking at? This is how we got to approach it, right? We got to approach every single route like a DB and think, okay, how would he want to guard this? What could stop this? What could he do to kind of debunk this route to make me not run the best route here, okay? And what the DB is focusing on is he is focusing on your hips, right? So if he's focusing on your hips, we got to make sure that I threaten him somewhere with my hips. So we want to throw my hip out. We want to be able to step out wide. And you see how this receiver, I know the clip kind of cuts off, but you could tell that step right there with his right leg is outside of the DB's frame. You want to stay inside of your frame, but outside of his frame. And when you could step outside of his frame, that's what's going to force him to move. That's going to force a reaction because we're threatening him to the outside. Guys who come off the line and they do a double up and it's just 2 steps. They don't move their upper half. We're not going to get space. So now again, you want to step outside of his frame, but what also do you want to do? You want to sell with your upper half. You see how he commits his shoulders and commits his hips. But at the same time, he's pushing off those inside parts of his feet, so he has that explosion. That's what's going to get this DB to move. That's what's going to get him to be off that platform. And you see, we get him to jump. We get his cleats out of the grass because I was a salesman first. I was sudden with my feet and stepped outside of his frame, which forced a reaction, sold with my upper half, turned my whole upper half. That gets him to jump, and now I can accelerate up into this route, and I could create some space. So that's the third thing all receivers got to know off the line of scrimmage. You got to make sure that we're threatening a DB. You got to be able to step outside of his frame. You don't want to reach and lean back and make your cuts slow and not explosive, but you want to be explosive, you want to be quick, but you want to be inside of your frame, step outside of his frame to force that reaction. Let's watch it again, full speed one more time. So he comes off, 1, 2, get him to jump. Let's accelerate up into this route. So now we're going to be looking at this route here from Davante Adams. One of the best off the line. Now, this is the fourth thing that I feel all receivers need to know is hand technique. What do you need to do with your hands? How can you beat a DB? Because so many guys try to do too much. They try to make it too complicated. They think that all they're going to do is, I'm just going to hand fight and then get off. You got to move this guy off that platform just like we talked about, but know the release that you want to take. So let's watch this route here. And you see how Adams just rips underneath. There's that I forget who it was, but I think it was Sunday Night Football. It's like, oh, he doesn't use his hands when he's off the line of scrimmage. Yes, he does. He just knows how to use them efficiently, right? So if I could get a DB to move off this platform and I'm running, let's say he's running a dig route right here, right? And he wants to take an inside release. It says DB's a little outside shade. So fine, I want to work him to the outside. I want to take this inside release and go. What hand do we have to beat? You got to know what hand you want to beat. His inside hand, right? Because if I could move him off that platform and he's here, so what, he recovers with this hand. The whole goal of press, the whole goal of the jam is to get hands and disrupt timing. Now, Davante Adams is running a dig here. More than likely, he's probably the first read on a dig, or else he might have gone with something a little bit more patient. If you're like a backside dig and you're working like you're like the third or the fourth read, you might be able to come off the line, maybe be a little more patient, work a little hesitation release, then go. But if we're quick, if we're the first or the second read and we're on the play side, let's get there right now. We got to go something quick. So I get him to lean off this platform. I get him to lean to the outside. Now you see how he just rips underneath, right? He just rips underneath because he knows if he could beat that inside hand and he got that DB to move off his platform, his hips are going to lock out. And when your hips lock out as a DB, that is a very bad position to be in when you got one of the best route runners in the league, because he can just easily accelerate upfield, widen the distance, and this is a lot of space between the two of them, right? So again, it's about moving the DB off the platform and know where I want to beat this hand. You could have gone here. We could have got him outside. You could have swatted with the left hand and shot over the top with the right. You could have ripped underneath. You could have just chopped down with the right leg, but know what hand you need to beat. So many receivers don't know that. So for the fourth thing that all receivers should know, fourth tip that receivers need to know, is know what hand you got to beat. If you want to take an outside release, let's say he wanted to run a speed out or something like that, and he wanted to take an outside release, I would work him inside and just know I have to beat the outside arm, because then I could take care of him at the top of the routes. Watch it again, full speed. So he hits him with a 1-2, rips that inside arm, and let's push up vertical. So last tip that I want to talk about, the fifth thing that all receivers need to know, is how to block. You guys got to be able to block. You guys got to be able to be physical, especially if you're a high school guy. And maybe you're in an offense that doesn't pass that much. Maybe your quarterback isn't that throw the ball downfield type of guy. You got to be able to block. That's how you stand out on film. So you see this receiver here, we're going to watch it. See how much he drives from his hips and drives from his lower half. When you guys are about to make a block and you guys are going to be physical, it all comes down to base and it comes down to hips, right? So when you go to block somebody, your base wants to be strong, because if this guy were to make a quick move and you had a narrow base and your feet were super close together, he'd just be able to just literally just run right by you and go make the tackle, right? But if I'm throwing a block, I want to have a strong base and I want to make sure that I'm driving from my hips and I'm getting low, right? I want to keep my feet moving. Your feet never want to stop. Your feet never want to be flat. Keep your feet moving. Drive from your legs. Have a good wide base so we can keep this guy in front of me. And you want to drive and shoot up from your hips. That's why exercises like maybe like a box jump or like power cleans are so important for receivers to have that hip drive. Okay, so that's the last thing I feel all receivers need to know about, is how to block correctly. Good, strong base. Keep that base wide. Keep your feet moving and drive from those hips. All right, guys, I really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, leave those in the comments. And again, if you want a 50% off discount on our 20 press releases and how to improve your route running in 10 days, both of those products, 50% off. Check out that very first link in the description. I'll see you guys next time.